All right, guys, so Beginner's Hall episode 1. I've got a lot of questions on what kind of tools you need to basically take a model and just get it built and put together, kind of like this one here. This is from War Machine. I haven't really played that game. I like some of the models. I was getting into this group. People started asking me, what do you need to get this built? What do you need to put this together? And I started with a basic list of tools, and I'm going to show you guys what those are, how to use them, cheap ways to find them and get them. All right, so first thing you're going to need is some type of clippers, some type of nippers. These came with one of these little metal art sets. You can build like a small model of something out of these little like super thin metal strips. Anyway, this is just a set of cutters. You can see it's got a flat sort of slanted blade there. That is really ideal because when you're working with models, you want to be able to go right up to the edge of the model and essentially, you know, snip off very, very cleanly what you're trying to get at there. So I don't recommend, if you find some of these, some people will go to a corner store or a pharmacy or a drugstore and get nail clippers. If you get something like this that actually has the curved edge, or this style, but it's kind of bent with the blades, that can cause a lot of trouble. So I definitely recommend having the flat edge on the head there, okay? So that's one thing you're definitely gonna need, especially if you're working with plastic, not so much metal. You wanna use other things on metal. It doesn't have to be super thick, it'll still dent these, so you don't really wanna mess with that. Most companies are going towards plastic and resin now, so that's not too much of a problem. Okay, so nippers. Next thing you're gonna need some kind of a file, okay? Now, all this is used is to sand down rough spots, to take edges off, to take lines off. You know, you can use both. You can go at it and you can use the actual rasp point of it, but you can also use the edge of it as a scraper. And I'll show you how that's gonna work a little bit later. You can find these at corner stores, drug stores. If you go in the beauty section, same kind of places you would find clippers. You can usually find these for $1 or $2 if you're good. Dollar stores, Poundland over in the UK, whatever they call it. That's definitely something you want to have. Okay. Another thing you're going to want is an Exacto knife or a hobby knife. Now these are very sharp. You definitely want to be careful with these, but these are for precision cutting, sculpting, detailing. You're going to want these to alter parts more than anything. If you're just looking to build straight away, not so much of a big must-have item. But if you're going to be doing a lot of modifications, yeah, you're going to want one of these. And this has another use, as I'll show you later on. I would say, aside from glues, these are your 3 must-haves right here, honestly. Now, additionals, you're going to want glue. Really, I think you only need 2 kinds. You want some kind of super glue for metal models and for resin models. Plastic glue will not work on metal, and it won't work sometimes on resin, depending on exactly how it's made and what's in it. Plastic glue right here will actually bond pieces of plastic together. It melts it slightly. This is Games Workshop's Citadel brand. You'll notice it's not in a usual type of bottle. This comes with like a needle tip, like so. This means you can really be precise on how you apply this, where the glue goes. Very handy, and a lot of other brands make this. Revel has a good one. Testers has a good one. It's really just a matter of preference, but you're gonna need 2 kinds of glue for the basic kinds of models you're gonna run into. There's a few extra things you can have. I like having this. This is just simple blue tack. It's sticky tack. You can basically stick this to things and it will hold them in place. I used that on one of my other videos to hold up some axes I was painting. This is really handy if you're trying to have something you can just set down, or you're trying to hold a model together, or you're trying to hold parts together for a little bit. You can buy this for a couple of dollars. Craft stores will have it, office supply stores will have it, places like Target, Walmart, you can find that there, no problem. Now, One thing to stay away from, some people will think, well, I have one of these, which will work as a hobby knife. I don't recommend it if you're working on things this size, because as you can see, some of these are pretty small, pretty fragile, and you're gonna cut them very, very, very easily. You don't really want this kind of a tool for this kind of a model. And as I said earlier, you don't really want this kind of clipper, so if you're really in a pinch and you're thinking to get started and you just go, oh, I'll just use like nail clippers, don't. You're gonna get a horrible cut on the part itself. Now, I'm gonna give you guys one tip. You can basically find a kit. It has pretty much all the tools I've listed as must-haves here and then some. This is a little specialty, but you can find it on Amazon, you can find it anywhere. This is a tool set for what's called Gunpla. Gunpla is Gundam plastic models. These are models off of a Japanese anime of big giant stompy robots. And this is a full kit of tools, and as you can see, my fiance got me this for my last birthday. This comes with a set of nippers. This comes with a couple different files. These aren't metal, mind you, not this one. This is more like different grits of sandpaper almost. And this one's a little bit rougher, as you can see. Okay. This one does come with a little metal file. It's like a small, very thin rasp. You can't really use this on big parts. It's probably, this is really rough, so I don't usually recommend it on these kind of models, but some cases you'll want it. Most of them will come with some kind of a hobby knife, Exacto knife. This one happens to come with some blades, so when you need to change that out, you'll have a few extra. And this is, again, extra. You don't really need it, but this comes with 2 sets of tweezers. These usually are for small parts or for stickers, decals, because a lot of Gundam models will come with those instead of paint. These I find really handy if you're going to be putting together really small parts and you can't really handle them with, you know, fingers because they're too small, or you get glue all over yourself. It's just not practical. Now, this whole kit, you can find these for between, I don't know, $10, $15 max. Sometimes it's cheaper buying one of these than it is buying each thing separately from different places. So depending on if you're just getting started, I think this is a great way to go. You can find them in hobby stores, craft stores, online on Amazon. Just about everyone can get at those. Okay, so that's basic tools. Now, I'm missing things. Some of you are probably going, hey, you know, what about green stuff? What about sculpting tools? What about clays and putties and basing materials? Well, I'm gonna do separate videos for all those. I'm really making this just for the ultra beginner, someone who's just starting. I know some of you guys are past that, but it's good to start at the beginning, go over things, and I'm gonna give you guys a little bit of a demonstration, what I do with these, how you use them. Some people, you know, ask little obscure questions. This is where I'm gonna get that out of the way. So I've got the Warhammer 40,000 Recruit Edition, and I've got here the Necron Commander. I forget exactly what he's called. We're just gonna call him Bubba. That's right, we're gonna call him Bubba. I don't got a better name off the top of my head right there, but I reckon that'll do just fine. All right, so you obviously want to read through the instructions if you don't know how a model goes together. It's just smart play, so you don't mess it up. You don't have to rip things off. You don't have to re-glue or do anything like that. It just saves you time. So it's definitely worth doing. I really should have bookmarked this in case you can't tell. Beginner's Hall. I'm a beginner at some things too. Whatever. Alrighty then. So, this dude is going to stand on a base. Yay, base. And we're going to cut out his main body part right here. And we are going to cut out his back plate right here. So, one question people had is, do you cut the part right at the edge of the part? kind of like that? Or do you come in over here and then sand the rest off? Well, good question. This is my rule of thumb. If you've got a flat part of the model, in other words, if you're cutting like right here, and this is pretty flat, as you can see. I'm looking straight on here with my camera. There's not really a problem just cutting right at the model like that, okay? If you've got a rounded part, if you've got something that's not quite flat or flush, maybe like these shoulder parts, then it's not too bad of an idea to go a little far off and cut it off there. Get the model off the frame and then actually sand or clip that down, whichever way you're gonna go. So I'm just gonna quickly cut this guy out. Note to beginners on 40K kits, some of the points where the model will go into the base, like right here, this is not extra. This is actually a peg that goes into the hole on that base. So you don't want to cut that off. It's not the end of the world if you do, but just in case it needs to be said, there you go. Okay, so again here, I'm just gonna go, instead of going right up against the model, I'm gonna move over, so there's a little bit of extra plastic. Cut that. Especially when you get little delicate bits like this, I don't know, frill. You don't wanna cut that too hard because sometimes that'll actually bend. So you cut away, give yourself a little bit of extra to trim down, and it'll be a lot neater in the end. Okay, cool. So, and that's another thing. If you notice the part is not coming right off the frame, okay, I cut what I thought was everything. There's one more little guy down here. I'm just gonna do that. Okay, good. So, parts off the runner, parts off the frame. All right, now, next thing you wanna do is you might just be going, oh, hey, I can glue that together now, right? Well, you definitely can. I don't recommend that you do. And here's why. A lot of people will actually skip this, and you have all this leftover material here from the cuts we made. And sometimes your cutters can't get close enough. You can't get that off. So what you do is you take your hobby knife very carefully, and you're gonna trim that away. It's a smart idea to cut away from yourself. You can even use these again now that it's not on the frame. Get right lined up. Pretty simple, and you got a neat edge right there. This one here, now that it's off the frame, same kind of deal. And there you go, you got a neat edge. That's all you want, just make it look neat. Some people skip this, and I see those models and I kind of cringe internally. It's a mistake we've all made. I'm not really being judgmental about it. It's just one of those things, if you really want your models to look good, it's a good practice to keep in. Okay. So now we go over here, and you'll notice a couple of things on this part. Okay. One thing I'm going to tell you guys is something called mold lines. You can see that there's a line running up and down the leg here, right about in the middle. And if you look on the bottom, on the underside, you wouldn't normally see this, but it's really prevalent here, which is why I'm pointing it out. This is a mold line, okay? Mold line is literally a line that's made when the plastic is coming out of the mold. And it's just a raised edge. It's really not the detail of the model. It's just a leftover from the manufacturing process. Now, all you do, some people think this is overkill. I use these. You can also take your file, okay, and just scrape this over the edge a little bit. I'm not filing, I'm just using the edge. And that takes off that ridge right there, okay? So all I'm really doing here is cleaning up the parts. The idea here is so these clipped areas don't look all jagged. These don't look all roughed up. And again, here we've got mold lines running up and down the leg. Doesn't have to be perfect. Get it as good as you want. When it comes to the feet on a model, I try to, as long as they're basically flat, you're fine. If there were a big jagged sticking off this, I'd probably get rid of that. Since we don't have that, we're just gonna move on. Okay. Okay, good. So, this is basically the back of the shoulders and part of the cape. It just fits in like this. Okay, so next tool. We're gonna use our plastic glue. Now, all you do here is take a look at the model and see where the parts are gonna come together. Sometimes it is brutally simple and direct, and you'll see there's holes for pegs, and it's just screaming, here I am. Sometimes you have that, sometimes you don't. Now, you notice here we have, this is our back piece, and we have these two little dimples. Sounds like Bubba's got some butt cheeks, but that's not what we're talking about right here. And then on the back, he's got them orbs. You see on the shoulders. Well, duh, that just goes together. Why did I choose to go very southern on that? I don't know, but I hope you're enjoying it. So, this is really handy, again, because you can just put a little glue on. You notice I didn't just smother the model. It's not going all over the place. I've got two little beads right there. If I really wanted to, I could even put a little on this piece on the inside of that square. Like that. Very little glue. That's what this needle tip comes in handy for. Very little glue on the part. And you just fit it together and give it a couple seconds. Now, this kit is meant to be push fit. I mean, you don't have to glue it. I like to. I just prefer it. And some people will say this should be left separate till you can paint it. I'm not that concerned. I can do a pretty decent job with the parts here, even when it's put together. Right? So you just keep going with that process. You just get the next parts, cut them out, start assembling. It's really not too tricky at all. Okay, next we got a spine in the other guy's arm. So this is obviously a very delicate kind of part. This will bend a bit. And you even notice it's got a little extra. It's got this little dongle sitting on the end, for lack of a better word. Okay, so we're just gonna clip it right out. Just like that. I guess a good rule here, if you can't tell where the part ends and where the sprue or the frame begins, cut frame. That way you don't wreck your part. Once you get it off, you can take a better look at it. Some of these guys, like I said, I've not built Necrons before. Some of these guys, it's kind of hard to tell, but I figure it out as I go. All right, not too bad. I got his other arm here. Okay, so this would be a tricky part. You can see this is the guy's arm, and he's got a handle here, and you could almost confuse that for frame. Didn't have a little nub at the end of it. It didn't have a little flat part, so that's kind of helpful. Thank you, Games Workshop, for not screwing that up. Appreciate you. All right, this one's a little tricky too. But I am the champion. Okay, corny movie line. Name that movie. 1970s. Bonus points for the bright students. Not like I'm the head prefect or something. Okay. There you go. So the next parts are out. And you just keep going with the exact same process. You file down or trim down and glue them on the model. Anyway, I'm not going to finish the whole thing here, but I hope that gives you some idea what kind of tools you can get, what you can use, and go from there. Leave any questions in the comments. I'm happy to show you guys more specific stuff in the future. If you want to know where I got my tools, I'm sure I can throw up some links. And if you have questions on other things you might need or other things you were thinking of using, run them by me. Totally fine.